Here's a question most brands have never actually asked themselves. How much of this month's revenue did you have to buy again from scratch? Not repeat revenue, not your base. Revenue from customers you acquired this month for the first time, all over again. A growing top-line number can hide a business that restarts every 30 days. There's one metric very few brands are tracking that tells you which business you're actually running. And that's the Acquisition Treadmill Ratio. Hi, I'm Alex Orley, and this is Hard Margins, your weekly e-commerce brief brought to you by RetentionX. RetentionX closes the loop from identity to insight to agentic execution, helping commerce brands understand customer value, identify growth opportunities, and execute against those opportunities through intelligent workflows and agents. If you have questions or topics you'd like covered, reach out directly, alex@hardmargins.com. Would love to hear from you. This week, we're talking about the Acquisition Treadmill Ratio, what it is, why it hides so well behind a healthy-looking top line, and 5 operational moves to reduce your acquisition treadmill ratio. So again, most brands know how much revenue they've generated in a given month. I mean, I hope so, but far fewer know how much of it depended on acquiring brand new customers from scratch. That distinction matters because a business can grow revenue while becoming more cash hungry and more dependent on paid acquisition every single month. For most brands, the share of revenue coming from new customers in a given month tends to be the majority of it, often exceeding 60%. And there is a class of operators who view this as health. New customers are arriving and your CAC is holding steady. But when 2/3 of a month's revenue is acquired fresh every month, the business effectively is restarting every 30 days. What that means is a CPM spike or a soft week on Meta will quickly reveal how shaky the foundation of rented growth actually is. And that's not a flywheel, that's an acquisition treadmill. The same top-line number can sit on a completely different foundation. The brands that understand this optimize for retention and end up with a revenue composition where current month new customers sit around 20%, while repeat buyers and older cohorts carry the rest. When older customers keep producing, repeat becomes the floor and the business gets built on an owned base of revenue instead of buying back every dollar of revenue each month. The top line on the P&L might look identical in this moment, but the businesses with repeat flywheels pull ahead very quickly. Okay, so what is the acquisition treadmill ratio? Here's the metric: current month customer acquisition divided by total revenue. That's the whole KPI. When that ratio runs too high, the business quite literally resets every month. A high reading is dangerous precisely because it hides so well. You can hit revenue targets, grow your new customer count, report steady CAC, and look really efficient in platform, while too much of the month still rests on demand you have to buy fresh. A high ratio is not a campaign problem. It usually means the customer file is not maturing. The first orders are not turning into second orders fast enough, if at all, and older cohorts aren't repurchasing, and acquisition is quietly compensating for a base that is very leaky. The ratio doesn't just measure how much you lean on acquisition, it tells you whether the customers you already paid for are actually working for you. Okay, so 4 key principles that I want to talk you through. The first, new customer revenue isn't automatically good news. A high share of revenue from new customers can mean you're scaling, or it can mean your existing base is too weak to support the business. Without the repeat breakdown underneath it, you genuinely can't tell which story you're reading. Next, repeat revenue is your floor. The more older cohorts contribute each month, the less the business leans on acquisition, which gives you room to absorb CAC volatility, it gives you opportunities to test new channels, and it protects your margin. Repeat doesn't just raise the LTV, it lowers operational stress across your entire business. Third, a flat treadmill acquisition ratio is a warning. Sitting at 60 to 70% current month acquisition, month after month, means the base isn't compounding. You may be growing, but you're growing in a way that has to be refilled from scratch every single month. That's expensive growth, even when it doesn't feel expensive in the moment. And lastly, the goal isn't less acquisition, it's acquisition that matters less to survival. You still need new customers. They should sit on top of a stronger base, not replace it every month. The healthiest brands acquire to expand the base, not to refill what leaked out. And I think a really clear analogy here would be a brand with a hit product. If you've got a hit product and you're acquiring all of these new customers around the hit product, that's great if those customers are returning. If those customers are churning, it's worth asking what that hit product is giving to you other than temporary revenue growth. Here are the 5 moves I'd make to shrink the acquisition treadmill ratio and turn repeat purchasers into the base. First, split monthly revenue into 3 buckets. Current month acquisition, customers acquired this month. Recent repeat, customers acquired in the last 90 days who bought again. And your owned base, older than 90-day repeat customers still generating revenue. This one breakdown changes the tone of every growth meeting you have because it forces the conversation away from top line and towards composition. Next, track the ratio monthly. That's the right cadence for this. And you can watch the trend. Is current month acquisition carrying less of the business over time? Are older cohorts contributing more? Is repeat becoming a larger share of CM1? Does the business really feel easier to grow at the same level of spend? Trending down in the acquisition treadmill ratio means you're building leverage. Flat or rising means acquisition is doing too much of the work. Third, set a category-specific guardrail. For many brands, keeping current month acquisition below 40 to 50% of revenue is a reasonable target. Consistently above 60% is probably the signal to interrogate repeat purchase rates and your product mix, and even your customer quality directly. Fourth, diagnose why older cohorts aren't carrying more. When the ratio runs high, you have to look at second purchase rate, the time between the first and second order, the LTV 90, the LTV 180 by cohort, and product paths after the first purchase. The fix is not going to be more campaigns. It's almost always a customer file that isn't maturing into a stronger base. And fifth, shift from acquisition planning to base building. The operating question moves from how do we scale spend to how do we make more of this month's revenue come from customers we have already earned. That changes what you prioritize. Onboarding, second purchase logic, replenishment timing, next best offers. It creates less reliance on blanket promos to fill your gaps. A business isn't built when acquisition spikes. It's built when repeat becomes the base. A healthy top line won't tell you which one you're running. The treadmill acquisition ratio will. When it trends down, LTV becomes more durable, cash flow gets safer, and growth stops depending on whatever next month's auction happens to look like. That's it for this week. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Alex Orley. This has been Hard Margins. I'll see you here next week.